are you taking everything right now? I mean, like, I know you're stressed, but like, are you, like you say, you got the Savatage thing. So are you?
Well, I'm luckily, like I said, luckily I'm busy, almost to the point of too busy, but I'm busy enough to keep me occupied with my solo record coming out. I've got a ton of press for that and things to get together for. I always sell personally autographed CDs and stuff through my site so people can, get their name on it and order it through me.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch of those on pre-order, and since this is the first time that I've ever had LPs, those are going to be coming too. So I won't be able to ship any of that out before I leave with Savatage because people would have them before the release date, and I can't do that. So it's like I'm going to try to get as many of the orders done as humanly possible if I can, and then send them out as soon as I get back home. But it's exciting because I spent the last couple decades doing that music, and to be able to have a cool little collection of it all with some new stuff and an LP to come out now at a time when not only my old fans can get a chance to grab it, but my internet stuff has been really crazy. I mean, the last 2 months I've had 2 million people visiting each month on my Instagram, so it's like over twice as busy as it usually is during TSO time, just over the excitement of Sabotage and everything combined with things that I have going on. So it's been it's a cool time for me to have something for everybody to listen to and some new music that they seem to be enjoying a lot, the unreleased songs. So like I said, I'm crazy busy. I'm the happiest person on the planet about the Sabotage situation. I was waiting a long time for that. So it's like a huge emptiness that I felt, every year when that wasn't going on, that's filled in again. So it kind of, like I said, it just anchors me through things, good and bad, and it's a part of my life that, I always knew I missed, but you don't really realize just how much until you're doing it again. And you're like, this, yeah, I that for that reason. It felt so good to be able to go back and do that. And we never broke up. We just kind of really stopped playing. So it was one of these things where I was waiting like the fans, and now that it's happening, it's like one of those pinch me situations that makes me really happy every day. So like I said, there's a lot of really good things going on at once. I mean, it enables me also to kind of channel out the rest of the crap that I see every time I turn on the news or the internet. The world is a little bit freaking crazy right now, and I think if you have a lot of free time or time itself, you have a tendency to let yourself get absorbed by that. And now I'm just like, I'll let the rest of the world now. Right now, I'm happy being Chris Caffery and Chris Caffery from Savatage, and dealing with my family and my own personal business. And I can't change the world, and I don't really want to. So it's like I just want to be able to be happy and productive, and that's where I'm at.
For sure. So, this upcoming collection, did you have the hand in picking everything that's on it?
Well, here it was really funny with that. I recorded the song last year, that "Do You See What I See Now," the new one that I wrote, and I was trying to think of a way to release it because I had a lot of fun releasing Mayday as a single. It gave me a little bit less responsibility just doing one song. So I was like, well, that song is actually kind of about the world and how, certain leaders through history managed to take over the people. And in the song, that leader's basically represented by the devil. And I was trying to think if I wanted to sing it, but I was like, nah, maybe it'd be fun to have somebody else. And I really couldn't have anything with John. I kind of was writing the song to be a Dr. Butcher song, but it was so cool that I wanted to get it out there now. And I thought about the Beethoven's Last Night tour that we did with TSO, and Jeff Scott Soto was Mephistopheles on that tour, and he was very good at it. And John does that part on the Beethoven's Last Night record, but I really can't have him singing on a solo thing now with us doing Sabotage and everything coming up. That doesn't make any sense at all. So when we were doing the pay-per-view for TSO, during COVID, Jeff had asked me, how come you don't have me sing on any of your solo stuff? Well, first of all, I usually sing everything on my solo stuff, but I just thought about it and I texted him and he said yes. And within a day, he had the vocals back to me, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I originally thought it would be fun because I was thinking about vinyl and the fact that the world is constantly at war and always has been. Release a 20th anniversary of my war record that I released as Warped under the original title, which was Goddamn War, that I had changed the title completely out of respect for the more religious and Christmas audience that TSO had. I didn't want to be out on the road signing CDs and things in an autograph line and have people standing next to somebody that's going to church the next day or that morning holding a CD that said Chris Caffery, Goddamn War. I'm like, it's probably not the most respectful thing I could do for that audience. So out of that alone, I changed the name to Warped, but I thought now would have been a kind of a cool time to do it. But, the ogre at Metalville was like, well, I would like to do a release, but maybe not. That would have to be a double vinyl, and maybe we could take that song and Mayday and a couple of things that you released as singles that never made it to record. If you had a few new songs, we could do one record. I'm like, well, let me think about it. So I kind of just stumbled through the unreleased things I had and thought about, maybe it would be fun in that respect to throw something like Music Man and Pisses Me Off on the record because they get a lot of plays online and thinking about unreleased, well, those songs were 20 years old and could have had people that never heard them that would really be happy to hear them in a new circumstance. So I started to assemble things and it went over the amount of time that would have been a single LP. So I'm like, crap. So I came up with the idea to do 20 years of the Music Man and reapproached the label and got the double vinyl anyway. It was like, so then I had to sit there and figure it out. I had more songs than I needed for the time. I mean, the CD version's a little longer than the LP version, so I just had to assemble them. It told me which of the ones and singles that they would be thought to use, and then I just kind of went through everything and took a little bit, of every type of style that was on my records and had a good version of each one of them. So, you had the songs that have the counterpoint vocals, you had the heavier songs, you had faster songs, you had acoustic songs, you had instrumental things, you had, things that were based around that winter holiday kind of thing that I do every year with TSO. And it was new songs and singles and songs like Fright Nights that were never on anything but an EP. And I had Sick of This Shit, which was never on this record. So I thought it would be fun to have Pisses Me Off, Sick of This Shit. And then on my Pins and Needles record, I had You've Got to Be Fucking Kidding Me. And that song got put to iTunes with the wrong title. That It's Sad on that record, they swapped titles. So I could never really, whenever something put me in the mood to post like a story online and using the music for You Gotta Be Fucking Kidding Me, I had to hide the title when the music attached because the online links were all with the wrong ones. So I'm like, well, maybe just throw that on too under the correct title. So it's actually the first time that's going to hit digital that way. And then you have all three of those on there, which kind of, represents the semi-sarcastic side of me that's out there. Some people are like, you record a new Pisses Me Off. I'm like, no, because the world is too sensitive right now.
Yeah.
And if I was to write a song putting what may be pissing me off, that may piss people off because there's always, everybody's on one side or the other of everything. So, when Pisses Me Off came out, there really wasn't that many people that had the net yet. They was starting to grow, and not that many people had cell phones yet. It was starting to grow, and then that song was accepted for what it was at that point in time, which was funny. Nowadays it doesn't even seem like sense of humor can be funny anymore. People have to get upset at that too. So I was like, let me just release the old version, and it's still funny. And I always feel that that song one day someone is going to latch onto it to get it to where it needs to go. Maybe it's a movie soundtrack or a wrestler or somebody's going to grab that song and take it to the next spot. So I thought that that was a good reason to have it there. And you know, Music Man is one of those songs that, like I said too, I feel has the ability to have some legs outside of where it was. Even with the label chose the three singles and they picked a couple of those unreleased songs, but the acoustic ballad "Then She's Gone" that's out now is getting received really crazy cool in a way. It's like everybody seems to get the lyrics. So usually if you release one song, it's a ballad, you may go to the female side or you may go to the male side if it's a metal song. This one seems to be hitting everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody I played it to or showed it to, whether they're in my heavy metal world or in my world that's not, they all really like the song and the video. So it's something that I was really proud of and happy to release out because I just wrote that song and recorded it one night in the middle of the night, you know, and just had it all done. And it was just sitting there, but I always thought it was kind of a little cool piece. And I had just put reverb and stuff on the click track, the cowbell or the woodblock kind of click track. And Wayne Joyner, when he did the video, was really kind of, not to say odd, but he used the clock and then the swinging pendulum of the other little watch like that, and it just had an irony to it that that was something that was represented on TSO stages and something that was an identity of Paul was really had something about that particular style of clock and the old school clock. And I never discussed that idea to Wayne. I never mentioned it to him. I don't even know if he had ever really seen the fact that TSO had did that, but he heard that ticking in the song and decided to incorporate the clock into the video. And I just thought that it had something that was giving me a pretty cool connection there. I thought to that, you know, and with everything that's going on with Savatage now and that it's just it helped me feel closer to Paul and like I said with Savatage I feel closer to Chris again. So a lot of my mentors and the reason why I got to be where I am get kind of represented in some of the things I'm doing now too.
That's fantastic. Um, so when the Savatage thing started kicking back up, um, how was it approached to you? Like how was it brought to you that hey, this is happening again? And
It was kind of funny because I think Aliva might have sprayed the freaking crop duster onto everybody around the world about this during the COVID time. He did an interview, I think it was with Rock Hard magazine in Greece, and I didn't know he was doing the interview, but all of a sudden the next day, my emails and my DMs and stuff like that were packed with things. And then I saw a Blabbermouth post, and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm so happy that Savatage is doing a new record." And I was like, "We are?" I was like, "No, we've been writing music and talked about it, but there was no official plan." So I guess John had done this interview and mentioned about wanting to do his idea for a final record, but in the midst of that, I just saw how many people were excited, and I think the agencies and festivals started contacting me and my management and the other guys in the band. And last year, right around this time, might have been this time or a month earlier or a month later, right around here, we got an email from or a text message in group from our management asking if everybody was available to do a conference call about Savatage. And I was like, wow, I wonder what this is going to be about. And you know, we just got asked this. There's a lot of really good offers. You guys want to go play next year? And I basically started crying. I was like, yeah, I've only been waiting over 20 years to do this. So, you know, that's where it came from. And at first we were just looking at doing a few, and then we added more, and then we added some headline shows, and they were selling really well. So we're looking at booking a whole lot of stuff next year. And like I said, for me, it's kind of like Austin Powers, being frozen, cryogenic frozen. It's like we didn't stop. We were just like, ah.
Yeah.
So now we're back, and we're just gonna go do what we do again. It didn't feel like it was 20 years when I walked on stage with those guys and played this music in. It felt like it was just yesterday. I mean, granted, I play with Jeff and Zach every year in TSO, and I see Johnny and Al every year with that, and we did the Beethoven tour and we did Wacken and stuff, but it was just a feeling like, this is where we always were, and it's just great to be back out there and walking up on stage and playing that music. It's such powerful live music, and there's so many old fans, but what we're discovering is all these new fans that were out in the audience that were singing along with every word, and some of them may not have even been alive the last time we toured, or they might have been 3 years old the last time we toured, or whatever the case may be. So it just felt really good to get back out there, and instead of me going to the festivals and either, I played with a lot of different bands for fun or when they needed some help over the last 20 years, whether I was playing with Doro, I did things with Metal Church and with Ripper. I would be on these festivals, but it was always like, that's Doro's show, that's Ripper's show. This is,
Yeah.
when you got back into the stadium in Brazil and the dressing room said Savatage, it was like,
Yeah.
this is fun. It felt like you were back home. It's like, this is where we were supposed to be. And it just took a little while. We had the world's longest coffee break.
Right. So is Savatage going on the hiatus? Is that why you went solo, or part of it anyway?
That was the only reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I started writing, and I had written riffs and things, and I'd written completed songs before for my bands and other bands, but when you handed people guitar riffs, they would write a song, and you would have melodies in your head that you didn't put down with it, and those melodies could be like what would naturally come to people in some way when they were writing, singing above it. And I was like, wow. I was like, I actually had something like that in my head. So I just started, when I got Pro Tools, I started singing some ideas down, and then I listened back and I'm like, I don't sound that bad. So it was kind of fun for me. I wanted to sing when I was a kid, but when I was 14, 15, 16 and started playing music, even, you had Dickinson and Halford and Dio and Coverdale and Steve Perry, and all these people were, the singer from Steve Walsh, and you needed to sing great to be a singer in a hard rock band then, for the most part, unless you were, going into the more like, radio rock kind of hair metal sort of world where a lot of the thing was imaged and catchy chorus based. A lot of those bands that I was fans were like Triumph and things like that. Those vocals were difficult, and as much as I wanted to sing, my brother and my other guys in my band thought, I had a little tiny squeaky voice and they didn't like how I sounded. So I kind of think I got scared away from it. I also thought that, singing might have been something that you just had. You're either great or you weren't. I didn't realize in the middle of writing and recording, and I actually took lessons, and I'm like, wow, I was able to teach myself how to sing more. Well, not just me, but from the lessons I took. And it was kind of like, wow, I could have probably done this the whole time. Because, when you're a guitar player who sings, sometimes people don't take you as seriously than if you were just a singer that sings. I mean, Richie Kotzen, I always use him as an example. He's one of the greatest singers on the planet. And people never really talk about him as a singer, but he's better than 95% of the singers out there. It's just, and that's fact. That's not, I'm just not
Yeah.
saying that because he's a guitar player and sing. That's just a fact.
Mhm.
When I first heard that, that family reunion stuff he did, I heard the recording first, and I was like, "Who the hell is this?" And then I saw who it was. I'm like, "Wow, he can sing," And then it took a while, but he just developed himself, but in the midst of that, still he doesn't really get known as a singer, which is always kind of an irony to me of how good he is in that sense. So I'm just happy to to make music, and I started writing, and I pieced together some demos, and somehow I got contacted by the Greek label Black Lotus, and they offered to fly me to Athens to talk to them about doing a record. So I'm like, I'm not take a plane flight to Greece. I went and hung out with them, and they listened to the music, and I think it was the song Abandon that really got my deal. And that was something I had written the music for, that to be on the next Savatage record, that at that time, this was in 2003, was not going to happen.
Right.
So, for me, I just wanted to make music. I didn't want to make another band or join another band. I just wanted to make music. And that opportunity came up, and I took it. I wrote like 70 songs and recorded 30 of them. And it was just something that I was doing to release some of my energy and a lot of my writing. But I think, some of the frustration of having something that was such a huge part of my life like Savatage not be there. I mean, I love TSO, and I'm blessed to have that in my life, but throughout a lot of the rest of the year, I wasn't doing TSO,
Yeah.
so I had that time where some people might think that, well, Savatage wasn't playing because the guys had TSO. It's like that wasn't
Yeah.
my part of it at all. That was, if anything, it made me miss Savatage more because I had a chance to play those months, and then I waited the rest of them, and I just wanted to stay busy and positive, and that's where I went with my solo stuff. I found it to be very draining though, because I took on a lot of the business end, and I did have some people help me here and there, but when you went to go tour and you were the manager, the merch guy, you're booking hotels and plane flights and talking to agencies and this and that. It was just a little bit more responsibility than I wanted, when I wanted to go play, but I did not want to be overwhelmed like that at the same time. And I just decided to back away from that side of it too. And also it was kind of a situation where you had John and Zach doing their bands, and Zach would do Wake and Magellan, and John would do Hall of the Mountain King and his shows, and a lot of the promoters and people, they had gotten what they wanted from Savatage from those two. So me, it was a lot more difficult for me to get the guarantees I needed out of the gate to get the band on the road. It's expensive to tour, and you make a lot of what you would need to be a support act off of the festivals in between. And it was just one of these things where, I didn't want to go bankrupt trying to go out and play. And it just, like I said, that kind of lost a little bit of the fun. I got to do tours with Metal Church and with Doro, and that was fun for me to not just playing in those bands, but my band opened for Doro and my band opened for Metal Church. So I had a chance to go out and do my thing, and I think it would be fun to get back out to doing some of that again. I think now that Savatage is playing, that we're going to be out for a while, and hopefully that keeps going. But I think some of the little spaces in between may be able to be filled with some shows on my own. Some of the places we went for fun, and they don't need to be huge places. I could go do acoustic shows and just get to travel and play my music. So I think a lot of what I was missing is going to be there with Savatage, and when I feel the urge to go do my solo stuff, I think that it's going to be a little bit easier for me to go out and do what I want to do for fun again without it being so stressful.
Right.
Because I think a lot of the weights of the world have been lifted off my shoulders too. Over 20 years, people always wonder if people remember who you are in that world. And I think when people saw just how much everybody missed Savatage, that it made me happy. And like I said, I'm not looking to go out and do anything to compete with being myself. It's like I'm who I am in Savatage and in TSO, and I'm more than happy with that. And now that Savatage is going to be filling that void that I had in the rest of the year, I'll record music, and if the time comes where it's cool for me to play, maybe I'll go to Brazil and do some shows with Jeff Scott Soto if he's down there. It's like you never now it's like that kind of world is opened up, and it's not really like one of these things where people would try to call you ex-Savatage because Savatage never broke up. And now it's like, if I go play a show with somebody, I'm just Christmas Savatage. And it's not like, whatever happened to that band? It's not, it kind of, just like I said, it smooths everything out. And I think it levels it out. And it's definitely taken my pulse down. I'm relaxed when I'm stressed, which is a largely Savatage is largely responsible for that right now.
Yeah, well, that's good. Do you have another interview here in a couple minutes?
No, no, I'm all right now. Actually, my interview times have been as bizarre as they can possibly be. There will be like now and then 7 o'clock and then 9 o'clock at night, or so they're scattered throughout every day.
Okay. No, I'm just making sure that you didn't have to get off right now.
And there's like 3 or 4 hours, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm lucky. I'm lucky I don't really have a schedule right now besides this stuff. So I just have to make sure I don't forget because they're all so scattered that it can't be like, okay, it's 11 a.m. I got to make sure I look to do the interviews. Today I had some stuff to deal with, and I looked at the clock. I'm like, oh my God, it's quarter to 12. Did I have an 11 o'clock? And I looked at my email. I'm like, phew, it's 1. So I was like, yeah. And so I think I got 2 in the evening today. So after we're done, I got time to go back and attack my yard work.
I know all about that. We had a big storm last night. I'm here in Kansas,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, there's tree limbs everywhere and stuff everywhere because the wind gets pretty crazy here. I'm sure you can imagine. And
Yeah, no, we're seeing some of the wind here, and the storms aren't even here right now. Yesterday and Saturday were crazy because we got a lot of rain the last few weeks, but all of a sudden these black clouds would move through and there'd be no rain, but you would get these little funnel clouds that would come down out of them, and they would just like be 10 feet wide and just go crazy on whatever it was they hit, and they were just tiny little funnels of air. You couldn't even see them, but they would just breeze through, and they're like really bizarre windstorms. It's the end of the world. No,
it is. It is. Sometimes it seems like
that's like I said, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing and let everybody else worry about it because I can't change it. And I just want, hopefully knock on everything, my planes land. Because when we came back from Brazil, we went from Argentina into Miami, then I went Miami into Newark, and we're my flight took off at 11 in Miami. It was supposed to land at 2:30. So it's 2 o'clock, and the pilot goes, uh, we just we're gonna probably kind of be in a little bit of a holding pattern here, about 50 miles out of Newark. There's a little some slight communication problems. They don't think it's gonna take too long, but we have enough fuel where we can go for a couple 100 minutes, so we're all right. We're just gonna take a little holding pattern. And I was like, okay.
stuff that you never want to hear.
45 minutes later, they still got a little bit. And what they did to us at that point, they shut the freaking internet off on that plane because I was able to skate around and get the Wi-Fi through my cell because as we were going around, you were picking up some towers here and there in the midst of it. So I was able to see what was happening, and there was communication problems in the airport, and they closed Newark and LaGuardia at that time. So I'm like, this is a little bizarre. And then he sits there and he's like, well, we uh we may be going to DC, or we're looking for possibilities of where else we could go. We only we have enough fuel for one more fly around, but after that we're gonna need to land and this, and all of a sudden 15 minutes later they just it was probably about 4 o'clock they landed us in Philly, and we didn't even take off from there till like 6:30. And I was like, just let me out here. I'll rent a car and go home. But they weren't letting us get off the plane. They fueled it up out in a parking lot area of the airport and waited. And then they were okay to land flights in Newark. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of fun. It was pretty disturbing knowing that there was a problem landing in two of the airports. I was like, well, what happens if there's a problem landing in the airport you're going to move to? Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're gonna go on a highway somewhere. The cops are gonna stop the Jersey Turnpike for about 2 miles, and we're gonna try to land the plane on the highway. It's like that's what I was waiting for. I'm like, this isn't. That's almost as comforting as the in case of the accidental or the unlikely occurrence of a water landing.
Yeah.
I'm like, in case the plane crashes in the ocean, yeah.
So, uh,
So yeah, as long as my plane gets to and from where I'm going, I'll be all right.
Chris, I got a question for you.
All right.
So, to all the people that have supported you all along your career, past, present, and even the fans that don't even know who you are yet, what do you say to them?
All I gotta say is thank you for allowing me to be just like them, but with a really uniquely cool job doing what I love to do. It's like I'm a fan before anything, and I'm a normal person before I am a rock and roll star. People like to try to call you sometimes, and I don't even know what that means, but I'm just a normal person. So I don't see myself really any different than anybody in that audience. I just see myself as somebody that's lucky enough to be able to play that music.
Right.
And, to anybody that watches that and watches me, I think they just need to realize that because of them, old fans, new fans, whoever they may be, that's the reason why I'm able to be that little kid that dreamed of being a rock and roll musician. And I walk up on that stage every night as my job. It's like I'm the luckiest person in the world and I know it. So it's like I'm just happy about it. So I'm always thankful for that because, if the fans ever disappeared, I not that I'm afraid of working. I've worked my whole entire life, whether I was on stage or off or whatever I do. It's like I know how to do what I do. People always kind of say I'm kind of a Renaissance person anyway. If you look at my websites between the art and the music and everything else that I do, I'm constantly doing something. I would find a way to show up in a town and get by. But I'm lucky enough to travel the world and do what I love to do because of the fans.
I love it. And I love that you've been able to maintain having something going on with Savatage being absent and having you know, it's steady but yet seasonal with TSO.
Oh no, that's the greatest freaking gig in the world, man. Man, it's that Paul created something so magical and it grows every year. The fans, every single year, I'll ask people at the charity presentation we do before we go on stage if they'd seen us before, and most of the cities, it's like half the people haven't. So it's pretty incredible, and I'm always so amazed at how Paul was able to have these ideas in his head and make them happen. He was the most driven person I ever met in my life. From even before our first record came out, he's like, Chris, now when TSO headlines arenas, we hadn't even released the record yet. So he was that kind of magical person that just had ideas and made them happen. TSO was his baby, and I'm just really proud to be able to keep that thing alive, for him. And I say to everybody, that's the greatest playground in the world. You talk about being a kid in a candy shop. I mean, being up there with, the greatest production available, because every year we just take, the newest things come into that, and we get to incorporate that into the show. And Paul always had wanted to make sure that that people who had seen us before get blown away by the show, but people that had I mean, people have never seen us before get blown away, but the people who had seen us get just as blown away the next time they see us.
Right.
So he always wanted to keep stepping it up a notch and working with Brian Hartley and doing the lighting designs for that. And every single year I look at what's about to go onto that stage as it gets put together in rehearsal, and it's so fun to watch that giant machine, 20 semis of the best technology there is get put together every day. That crew is insane. I mean, they got to take that up, take it down, and put it up before matinee shows, and it's a ton of stuff, and it's just fun, man. It's a really fun thing to be a part of, and for me, I just try to make sure that I stay in shape to be able to handle that schedule because you're doing 8 shows a week, but 6 of them are in 3 days, and it's a long show, and it's the cold and flu season, so you really got to make sure that you take care of yourself out there and pace yourself. I mean, we were just starting that, and it was 26 or 7 years ago when we did the 26 years ago, I think, when we did the first tour. Um, we were playing theaters. The stages were smaller. You had one show a day. You were a lot younger. You were able to push the envelope a little more on how you spent your time off stage. And with this one, I always just find myself making sure that I'm saving all my energy for that stage. People are spending a lot of money to live nowadays too, and I just want to make sure that when they go in to see these concerts that they're getting what they paid for too. I would never want people to leave and be like, "Whoa, wasn't as good as last year or whatever." But I always think that, and I think that's how the whole entire TSO organization and Paul and the O'Neill family and everybody, they just wanted to make sure that everybody always left happy and really blown away by what it is that we do.